Hey folks, Jonathan here. I want to do a little video on cam lobes, so you can get an understanding of how they work. I know somebody had posted on there that I had said something about grinding the back side of the cam to make the top side taller, and that's exactly what you do. But you know, there's a lot to a cam, and really, you know, efficiency on an engine, I would think that's probably, besides, you know, going away with the carburetor, it's probably the most advanced that we've done. You know, cam timing, valve timing, but what we're going to talk about is basically lift, duration, lobe separation, valve overlap, ramp angle, the base circle, and how you would grind it to get more lift, and how you would do other things. There's a lot of things over the years that they've done, especially before there was, you know, performance cams available. You know, Vic Elderbrock Sr., you know, a lot of the old ones, Mickey Thompson, you know, they done a lot of testing and playing, and you know, that was what they had to do. So you know, they come up with some real good stuff. But first, of course, most of y'all know what a cam looks like. We're going to use this Briggs & Stratton cam. This is a 3.5 horsepower Briggs. I showed this one before, and not much to it, but this is no different than any other cam. You know, a V8 cam would just have, you know, more lobes. That's the only difference. You know, you've got one intake, one exhaust, and I'm going to try to show you some stuff. First, I'm going to show you how you would get more lift from grinding on the back side. When you adjust your valve, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a lobe just like you was looking at the lobe toward the end, and hopefully I can do a good enough job you can understand it. Okay, this would be your lobe. This would be your base circle right here. Your base circle would be basically the round part without the lobe. And what you would do, if this lobe, same lobe, was upside down, here's our base circle, and our lifter came down here, and this is what it would lift on. If the more meat we remove from the bottom side, the closer we can adjust this lifter. So when this lifter when the lobe turns and gets to the side where the lobe is at, it's going to raise it up higher, and that's exactly what you do. And if you ever seen some of the old car clubs, you had cam grinders and you had cam twisters, and this is basically what they're talking about. You know, that's what started all this, because, you know, they was sort of it would be telling people that you know, if it's the cam grinders, then chances are they've done some engine work, and, you know, they've got a little faster car or something like that. But that's what you would do, is you grind from your base circle, the back side. When you take away from the back side, it actually adds to the top side, because when it spins around, it lifts it higher, because you're lowering this lifter. So that's how you would get, you know, a better lift out of your cam. Now, and I'll give you some ideas of what all this is, but of course, you know, most people know that the duration would be the time that the valve is actually open. The lift is the height, but your lift is actually measured from your base circle. So, you know, if you've got let's just, you know, 200 thousandths lift, then it would be 200 thousandths from here up, always referring back to your base circle. And your duration would be from the time it starts opening till the time it closes. And when they're talking about cam twisters, and a lot of, especially a lot of rules on small engines, you know, when you're talking about go-karts and stuff like that, if there's a rule that says you got to run a stock cam, what you would do, if you want your valve overlap to change, you would actually twist it in between the two lobes, and you would be moving this lobe and this lobe closer together, and it's going to change your lobe separation. But what it's going to change is your valve overlap. And the way that valve overlap works is your exhaust is coming up and pushing your exhaust, you know, all the fumes out, and then just as it closes, your intake opens to be able to get some air fuel mixture in. And what happens is if your intake begins to open before your exhaust closes, that exhaust moving through, because your piston's coming up, and that exhaust that's moving out of your exhaust manifold, and the intake starts to open, it sort of scavenges the air from the intake. It actually sucks it in a lot faster. And like I said, for years, valve overlap was something that they stayed completely away from. They were scared of. You wanted your exhaust to completely close before your intake started to open. And over the years, as they learned and worked with it, it has of course changed, and valve overlap is something that they do now. But ramp angle would be the angle coming up. Your ramp angle leaving would be the other angle. There's really not as much to it as you would think. It's a lot of people find it complicated, but there's so much you can do with it. And tractor pulling, you couldn't buy a cam that was pre-ground or cast or made for performance in any way. So you had to design your own. And of course you wanted to get more lift, and like I said, you can do that by your rocker arms also. But I'm trying to think of anything else that I didn't cover that I want to cover on this. Your duration, if you wanted to, let's say you didn't want to add any lift, but you wanted to change your duration, and you wanted your valve to stay open longer while it's at max open, what you would do would be grind off the bottom side, just like I said. That way you can adjust your valve up, but then you would cut off of the top, and you wouldn't lose any lift. If you took 50 thousandths off your base circle and you took 50 thousandths off of this, it's crazy that you're taking away from both, but you're not changing it any. You're still going to have the same amount of lift as you do before you take it off, but you would take 50 off there and 50 off there, but that actually would leave your main opening open longer instead of up here where it's short. So it's little things like that you can do. Besides, when you're having one ground, there's tricks and stuff to the trade, of course, but most places when they grind, they've got a machine to grind them, but they've actually got a blank, which would be, and the blanks that I seen was pretty good size, and they would build a blank, and it sort of worked like a tracing attachment, or let's say an axe handle maker, where you've got one axe that handle that's made, and it goes in the machine, and it basically copies it, a tracing machine. But it would trace the lobe from another lobe, but the lobe that it was tracing was a big lobe. And so you would build and design it, and then a single lobe, and then you could regrind each lobe on the cam to match that. There's not that much to it. So, but anyway, another thing I want to talk about. I had a few people that commented, and Danny's commented a few times about patent, putting a patent on stuff. And I built a bunch of stuff over the years that was sort of one-off. There's not much for inventing now. Not in my eyes. Most things are improved on and not invented. And inventions have that was 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s. Everything now is just pretty much an improvement on what's already out there. And a brand new engine running right now is an improvement over the Model T or whatever engine. It's no different. You're still running cam, piston. It's still an explosion motor, what we'll call it. But the one thing about patent, years back, I think I had checked on it, but I remember. Okay, kind of lost my place there. Anyway, what I was saying is there's not inventions coming out like they were, and it's pretty much set up now to where the small man, the man that comes up with the stuff, he's not going to be the one that benefits or profits off of anything. And I personally, well, I'll give you a story. And there was, in 1833, there was a guy named John Lane, and he built the first steel plow, although he don't get credit for it. The difference between him and who gets credit for it is the fact that he built it and wanted his fellow farmers, friends, and anybody to be able to use the design and have the plow, and he wasn't trying to profit on it like other people profit. And what he had done, before the steel plow was a cast iron plow, and a lot of them was of course wood and cast iron, but they had a cast iron mold board, and the mold board is the board on the side that kicks the dirt away. And what was happening with it being cast iron, it wasn't as smooth, and the clay would stick to the plow, and you'd be cleaning your plow all the time, cleaning the clay off. And so he built a self-scouring plow, which was nothing but an old saw blade, and it was probably a chop saw, or not a chop saw, but a slab saw blade or something. But he cut 3 strips out, and he mounted on that plow. And because of that steel, steel wasn't in production in the United States in 1833. It all had to come from England. But because of that steel was smooth, the clay wouldn't stick to it, and it would fall off and come off. So he done it, like I said, and he wanted all of his neighbors and everybody to have access to it. And 4 years later, a man by the name of John Deere, of course, he now the history books will tell you that he actually started a factory. He sold his to his father-in-law, but he started a blacksmith shop in Grand Tour. And the truth is, he worked for a guy named Andrus at Grand Tour Plow Company. Somehow the information got over to them, about the steel plow, and John Deere ended up, leaving there, starting his own business and marketing the steel plow. And he did bring it to the masses, sort of like Henry Ford brought the vehicle to the masses. He didn't invent a car, but he was the one that come out on it. And John Deere was the same way. John Lane was the one that actually built the plow. But I feel the same way about anything that I build. And I've built a lot of stuff over the years. But anything that I come up with and build, I want other people to be able to build it if they want to build it. I don't want to profit off of anything. But usually I like a challenge. I like a mechanical challenge. So something like to drill the holes in the middle of the coin. That was just a challenge to me. I was laying in bed at night thinking about how I could do it. I come up with 100 different ways of anything from mounting a drill head to it to just different ways of holding it. And you do that, and then you try to simplify it. You try to bring it into something that you can do that's simple. And that's what I tried to do there was make it where it was a simple, easy, quick build. And that was a rough, a lot of the things I didn't measure or anything like that. I just, like I said, it's just what I call a prototype. But anybody is welcome to make one like it, or get a hold of me, and I'll give you what measurements I've got, to be able to make it. And I don't have anything wrote down. I've just got stuff in my head. But anyway, but that's why I wouldn't dare, I wouldn't patent anything. I mean, maybe if I invented an engine that didn't run on gasoline, or something like that. But I'm through chasing money in my life. I just want to make a good living and pay my bills and do what I enjoy, which is exactly what you see me doing. Well, anyway, I hope that helped everybody understand about a cam and didn't confuse them more than what they was already confused. And they're not that complicated. And when you're ordering a cam for an engine, they're gonna they're going to list, you know, the lift and the duration, and usually the lobe separation. And if you watch, you know, they tell you whether it's got a rough idle, if you're going to require, you know, a vacuum tank for your power brakes and stuff like that. If you'll watch as the valve overlap increases, so does the rough idle, and that's where that's where you get your lope at. You know, it sounds like it's camming hard, but anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. If you got any questions, just post them and I'll try my best to answer them. But till next time, bye.